Jamie, and this is Ashton, who's 2 years old, and my husband Addison, and then McKenna, who just turned 5 in June. We found out May 16, 2016, that McKenna had stage 3 high-risk neuroblastoma. She had a very distended tummy. She was complaining a lot about being in pain. And there were a couple different things, in the winter that we first found out, like shoveling snow. She would hit the shovel on her stomach and just scream in pain. So, of course, Addison and I, we didn't know. We thought that was just a typical, almost 3-year-old kind of reaction. So we took her in after lots of tests, ultrasounds, and it just came back that she was constipated, which is a very normal toddler thing to do. So after, a few months? After a few months of getting tests and no results, or answers, I guess, we said we're done with that, let's go to the ER. So we did. They did a CT scan, and at approximately 5 a.m., the ER doctor came in and said she had a huge mass in her abdomen. I do this every time. We headed up to the oncology floor in Blank, and it was on the 4th floor, and we don't know anyone else at the time who had childhood cancer. So Addison actually didn't even know what oncology, the word, what it meant.
Didn't have any family history or anybody else that had cancer that I had dealt with in my lifetime. So when they sent us up to the oncology floor, I thought, whatever that means, we'll be in and out, get just treated and be done.
So we thought it was going to be a really quick trip. It wasn't. I think we're inpatient for the first 2 weeks. So we sat down, and we both remember exactly Dr. Wendy Woods coming in and telling us exactly kind of what's going to happen, what we can anticipate, the roadmap, these kind of tests that were going to be done. So she got her central line in. And then keep in mind, in the next couple weeks, she's going to turn 3. So we were all very overwhelmed. Fast forward, she ended up getting 6 rounds of chemo. She had a very invasive 14-hour surgery. Totally opened her up, and Dr. Bucci basically saved her life.
Her tumor was wrapped around her aorta in her abdomen, as well as other various organs and different things within her abdomen. So the likelihood that she didn't survive was very high that day. And by the grace of God, she's with us today at 5.5 years old.
Yes. For her stem cell transplant, which is protocol for stage 3 high-risk neuroblastoma. And when we got up there, they looked at her scans and said, whoa, there's another spot that no one saw. So we got shipped back to Iowa, and we did an additional round of chemo. And then there happened to be, outside of her abdominal mass or spots, there happened to be a spot near her clavicle as well, which no one saw. So that put her instantly in stage 4 high risk, which is ultimately the worst stage you can be in with neuroblastoma. So that added on another stem cell transplant. So we had surgery to remove that lymph node, and then we went back up to Minnesota, where we spent approximately 3 months. We had about a 3-week break in there. Awesome during transplant. She had every symptom you can imagine, but she was out of the hospital in record time, according to the doctors up there. After that, she had radiation. She was sedated every day for a month, with the exception of weekends. After radiation,
You said there were 20 rounds, right?
Yeah, we had 20 rounds a whole month, yeah. After radiation, we started getting a lot of high blood pressure issues, a lot of higher lab values, retaining fluid a lot. Okay. Retaining fluid a lot. So we headed back up to Minnesota because we couldn't figure out this might be a transplant issue. And she ended up having a transplant complication that happened to surface on day 80. after her transplant. It's called TMA. It's now widely known, and at the time, go that way. At the time, it wasn't.
You hold it?
Here, Addison. This is real life. Oh, this is food. How you doing, girl? Are you feeling better?
Back in action.
Okay, awesome. Kinda? Was it a lot, the whole thing?
Whole thing, I think.
Okay, that's totally normal. So you can even have that in the video. You'll be totally good now.
Okay.
It's just a one and done. And she feels like $1,000,000 then.
Yep.
Feel good now? That's awesome.
TMA, essentially, your red blood cells just kind of eat away at itself.
It was her kidneys that would eat up her red blood cells.
Yeah.
The vessels that filter your blood were so constricted, the blood cells themselves would smash into those walls of those blood vessels and just get shredded up. And the kidney sends out hormones. It's realizing all these things are happening, so it sends out hormones to increase the blood pressure even more, which shred her blood cells even more. So it's just this endless downward spiral of kidney function until we got
Right.
this medication that slowly corrected it over time.
It's the most expensive medication in the world currently. So anyway, we were, after that we got on the medication, we got sent home and said, you guys have TMA, go home and just monitor blood pressure. The first 2 weeks of TMA diagnosis, she had about 10 blood and platelet transfusions. And that was just crazy. So anyways, we came home. We were under the care of Dr. Woods and team, who was phenomenal again. But we just weren't sure on kind of what our blood pressure should look like. So for her age, it should be very low. And she was maxing out at an adult age for blood pressure. We were hitting 150 over 120.
That was the highest you've ever
That was the highest, yeah. So we eventually said that this isn't good. We went into her bedroom one day,
One morning.
one morning.
The morning that it was at its highest.
And I can just remember it like it was yesterday, but we went in and she was basically unresponsive.
Her eyes were twitching to one side. We thought she was having seizures of some kind. Well, we didn't know what was happening.
We had no clue.
We were terrified.
So essentially we brought her back in to the ER. They ran all of these tests, and essentially she had something called PRESS. Her brain was swelling, or swollen.
The blood pressure
I
was
guess.
so high in her brain that it was causing it to malfunction and kind of short circuit.
Yeah. So we took an ambulance ride for 4 hours up to Minneapolis. She was not coherent at all.
She was chewing her tongue.
Take it over there. So she was not coherent at all. So we drove up there and we were inpatient for 2 months.
On a nicardipine drip.
So
That was the only way they could get her blood
she was
pressure
on a blood pressure. Ashley, she's on a blood pressure drip. She was on many blood pressure meds. She is now on a seizure medication, which we've never had seizures before. And her brain is swollen, and she's retaining fluid. So that was probably the max TMA peak complication we've had.
And at one point, the theory, before we knew it was PRESS, the idea was potentially it could be neuroblastoma that had metastasized to her brain.
Yeah.
So that was a giant fear on our minds until we figured out exactly what was happening.
So we got that under control. At this point, the rest of her treatment has been put on a standstill. And she currently actually didn't finish her neuroblastoma treatment to its entirety because of TMA. She now has chronic kidney disease. So oncology-wise, we're good. Kidney disease, we're not good. So part of that, with neuroblastoma, you do immunotherapy. That is dangerous with TMA, so we couldn't do that, which is the latest and greatest life-saving neuroblastoma treatment protocol. So we can't do that, or we didn't do that. She did take Accutane for 6 months. And that was the end of her neuroblastoma treatment because of TMA. So she finished treatment, thank goodness, in January 2018. We kind of made our own roadmap. Dr. Woods once told me, and this is for anyone else who kind of follows or makes their own path, that everyone wants to kind of run a race with 2 legs. McKenna decided to run a 3-legged race. So we just kind of like did our own thing for quite some time, and we're still doing our own thing. She became this like medically complex cancer child, and this is one before cancer came into our lives that she didn't even have an ear infection as a child. So now at some point she will have a kidney transplant in her future. Alongside her 2 stem cell transplants, we'll chalk that up to 3 transplants at some point in her life, hopefully. And so we're blessed. She's looking how she is. She has been tube fed a majority of her treatment. She was eating orally, obviously, prior to treatment. Sit up here, bud. But month 2 of treatment, she got a feeding tube because cancer treatment was so harsh on her appetite.
When she was initially diagnosed, we were ready to say goodbye. You know, with this 3rd birthday to her last, in my mind, I thought it would likely be, but thank God. And through all the doctor's help and everything else, and her strong body, she's here at 5.5, and she's almost like a normal kid now, besides the tube feeds.
Scans every 3 weeks, which is one coming up, and so we're praying that she's going. She did graduate from a PET CT to now just a CT, and so that was great. She still has 2 little spots in her abdomen, one being next to her kidney, so no one wants to touch that one because of her kidney disease now. And the other one we're just watching, it's too small to biopsy. So we're just hoping it gets better.
Holding steady.
Or staying steady.
Living life at this point, after 2 years of being inpatient.
Yeah, and
Almost
then,
3.
And then otherwise, she's still taking approximately 7 meds still, 4 of them being blood pressure meds. But everything is super stable right now. We were talking earlier is this late side effects, and I'm talking late as in like a year. We haven't seen what she's going to do when she's 20 or 30. Radiation, and then also mostly radiation. She may or may not be able to have kids in the future, but we signed that paper knowing that that was a possibility. So we know that that's a possibility. We know that hearing loss is a possibility. She does have some of that.
Stunted growth.
Stunted growth will be one because of radiation, and then also kidney disease. That's lack of height.
Everything's working against
We
her.
later found out. But I remind the doctors that I'm short. So, she's not going to be a giant, and he's short, even though he thinks he's tall. He's not that tall. Yeah, I know.
I am too.
With the Children's Cancer Protection, I was going to mention that she loved getting the bravery bucks. Loved the bravery bucks. She would cash in like $10 at a time. And so at one point, she would always get them for accessing her port and de-accessing because that was tricky. And so we kind of found our way on how to take it off, how to, take off the dressing. She has her rules of like no counting out loud, extra dry time.
What else?
Basically don't look at her.
That's it?
That's it, yeah. Those are the only rules. There's just, a handful. And so she would cash in. So she was making bank for a while, like when we were getting labs like 3 times a week. So she would rack up these $10 gift cards with these bravery bucks. And then also we actually just did all of our beads, which I know you're supposed to do that at the beginning. I was not going to do that at the beginning. I couldn't even keep track of it at the beginning because it was so overwhelming. So I emailed Melissa, bless her heart, And I said, here is every bead I need. And she just mailed them to my door. Ashton, no one wants to see.
We were expecting, we knew we'd have a lot of beads, but
Yeah, we
when
didn't
it was
know
like a gallon plastic bag.
We
packed
didn't
as
know
full as it could
we
be.
were going to get 1,500 of them. Well, we have more now because she has her labs, but Melissa sent me approximately 1,487 beads. So anyways, the beads were great. McKenna and Ashton both loved putting them on this fishing line so we could display them at her party. And it went down our whole hallway. Preschool, yeah. So she came to the back to school bash and loved it. And he even liked it too. He even picked out a giant backpack that went to his ankles. But he loved it. And McKenna loved coming here too to get ice cream and
Face painted.
balloon
Balloon
animals.
animal.
Anytime she's still in a lot of pain. So
And Ashton was 2 months old at the time.
yeah,
So
now he's 2.
now he's
So yeah, so in that short amount of time, of course, I was teaching, so I had to. I was on medical leave. I was on maternity leave, and then I switched to medical leave with McKenna, and so we went to one income. And the Children's Cancer Connection has really helped us find resources on, who we can get financial help from, support from, just kind of a warm, friendly, hug from certain people. I know we were really close with Melissa, and she's been great this whole 2.5-year journey now. So.
You ride camels at the zoo?
Hannah loves riding camels at the zoo.
Oh my gosh, they're so big.
What?
Oh.
You like to do that too.
And she likes the fast rides at where?
Adventureland, yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she's become pretty fearless. There's some things that you think would be like, oh, that should be pretty easy, because she's done that a lot. Like, we've spread out our port accesses. The more they get spread out, the harder they get now. When you were doing them twice a week, it was a little bit easier because it was just second nature. But now that we are spreading out, which is fabulous, once a week, once a month, they're becoming a little bit more difficult. But she's now my fearless child with everything she's gone through. So she likes fast rides. She likes to go fast in cars. She likes to jump off couches. She's done physical therapy actually a lot. And we had to reteach her how to walk after surgery. And transplants. And now she runs, and you can't stop her from running. She just runs everywhere. And she jumps off of everything. And she's graduated physical therapy, she's graduated play therapy, and she went through EMDR therapy, and that was her last day today. So socially and mentally and physically, she's gotten a lot better. So it's taken time, but we got there.